Hello everybody, this is Kate from the Centennial Park Branch Library. This next Huichoi beaded flower tutorial is going to demonstrate how to add the top half of the petals for the large Huichoi flowers. Where we left off before was we had just finished adding this bottom half of the petal. And it works out really well because our thread is exiting where we need it to exit for us to start adding the top half of the petals. So if your thread is not exiting one of these beads that is right underneath the first two beads that you would have added for the bottom half of the petal, just go ahead and sew through a couple of beads and get to that position. All right, so we're going to sew up through the first two beads that would have been added for this petal bottom. And then just like the petal bottoms, the petal tops are also made with 5 beads, and the petal tops are going to be made with the medium blue beads. 5 of the medium blue beads. Go ahead and pick those up. And we're going to sew down through, we're going to skip this center bead and sew down through what would have been the 4th bead added from the petal bottom. And go ahead and get your beads to form the petal. Seems like you always have to fuss with them a little bit. All right, and it'll look like that. So now we are going to add the yellow bead. For the large flowers, there is a yellow bead in between all of the petals. And this is so that the thread does not show. Because we don't want the petals to be too tight next to each other or it won't look nice. And this yellow bead will keep the thread from showing. So again, I've got my yellow bead picked up. I'm going to go through the second bead that would have been added for the bottom petal half. All right, and then I'm in position to add all 5 of the medium blue beads for the top half of this petal. And I'm going to skip that center bead and sew down through the next bead. And then I'm going to add my yellow bead. And I'm going to go up through the second bead that would have been added for this petal bottom. And I'm going to pick up 5 more of the medium blue beads. And I'm going to skip the center bead and sew down through the next bead, which would have been the 4th bead added in this petal bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick up my next yellow bead and sew through the second bead of the petal bottom. Add 5 more medium blue beads. Skip the center bead. Go through the 4th bead of the petal bottom. Pick up my yellow bead. Go through my second bead of the petal bottom. Add my 5 medium blue, skip the center bead, go down through the 4th bead, Add my yellow bead, go through my second bottom petal bead, and I'm going to pick up my last 5 medium blue beads, skip that center bead, go through the 4th bottom petal bead, and now I'm ready to add my last yellow bead. And when I add my last yellow bead, I'm going to go through another second bead of the petal bottom. And at that point, our large flower is done with all of the stitching, and we will just need to tie off the thread. Okay, so go ahead and pull your thread tight, make your petals look how you would like them to look, and there is the large Huichoi flower with the color gradiated petals. So the last thing that we have to do is we have to tie off this thread. And we're going to do that like we did before when we tied off the thread in the center circle, only we're going to tie this thread off through the petals. So we'll start off sewing through a couple of beads. I'm going to sew through one whole petal. Just to get that thread in there. Start making this secure. And I'm going to start making my half hitch knots in this petal now. So I'm going to, and remember there's 3 steps for making your half hitch knots. You put your needle underneath a thread bridge, you make a loop and sew through the loop and pull it tight. I guess that's 4 steps. Okay. So there's our first half hitch knot. And we're going to sew through a couple more beads. I would not recommend doing a half hitch knot on the petals on either side of the center bead. You would want to go make your knot down in here because the knot might make it the petals sit kind of funny. All right, and I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to make a half hitch knot here. So I'm going to go under the thread bridge. Going to go back through the loop. Pull it tight. Sew through a couple more beads. Okay, I'm going to make a half hitch knot. I'm going to go underneath that thread bridge, pull my thread through to make a loop, go back through that loop, and sometimes you will notice that the thread wants to go around another bead than the one you want it to. And you don't want that to happen because then it will cover that bead in thread. All right. So I'm going to go through a couple more beads just so this is nice and secure. Make sure that it's tight how I want it to be. And it looks pretty good. I think I'll make one more half hitch knot. Okay, I'm going to go under the thread bridge between these 2 beads. Make a loop, sew back through the loop, and make sure my loop is in the right place. Pull it tight And I'm going to go through the beads of this petal, and then we're going to trim our thread. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. So we can go ahead and remove our needle. And remember, when we trim the thread, we're going to do the pull-push method. So I'm going to pull up on the thread and push down into the beadwork. And I did it a little too close there. But that is our large Huichoi beaded flower. So congratulations, you have made your first Huichoi beaded flower. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate your interest in this program, and I hope you make a lot more beaded flowers and have a lot of fun with it. Thanks again.